Good evening. I'd like to welcome you to our August 8th City Council meeting. In the interest of time efficiency and ensuring that everyone who wishes to address the council is given the opportunity to do so, the following will apply to all comments made by the public. If you desire to be recognized by the chair, please fill out a request form and present it to the city clerk present here in council chambers. Each speaker shall be allotted 3 minutes to address the council, unless such time is extended by the mayor or by questions from council. Groups shall designate a spokesperson to avoid repetition of comments. Every effort will be made to avoid interrupting speakers. Thank you for participating in your city government. We ask that you please silence all electronic devices at this time. Could we all please stand together for our invocation? Remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. And we'd like to welcome Pastor David Nye here once again from Christ Our Savior Fellowship to lead us in our invocation.
Let us pray. Our most gracious Heavenly Father, we approach you this evening with a grateful heart, thanking you for another day of life, and thanking you for all the wonderful gifts you shower upon us daily. I ask your blessing upon these council members as they discuss and debate issues concerning our city. Give them wisdom and discernment regarding any decisions that will be voted upon during this meeting. We also ask your blessing upon all the citizens of our city, our state, and our nation. I ask this in the name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Nye. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mayor Blackwell?
Here.
Deputy Mayor McKinney? Here. Councilmember Urban?
Here.
Councilmember Gilbert?
Here.
Councilmember Fletcher?
Here. I'd like to ask our city manager, do you have any agenda updates for?
No changes this evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before we begin with our presentations, I'd like to recognize a very special person who's here tonight. Her name is Emma Sanderson, the distinguished niece of our council member, Matheny. Miss Sanderson, would you please stand? We are delighted to have you here tonight. Thank you for coming. You can help us keep an eye on Miss Matheny. That would help. At this time, we will have a presentation for Employee of the Month by Ty Toomey.
Good evening. Jason Miller, Fire Chief. I'm proud this evening to be here before you to present the Employee of the Month to Ty Toomey. Ty Toomey was selected as the August Employee of the Month. Ty has been working at the fire department since January of 2021. Prior to that, he worked for Parks and Rec. We were fortunate enough to steal him away from Steffi and their crew always over there, and we're very thankful for that. Ty is very customer service focused and always takes the lead when it comes to taking on projects or when it comes to care for patients. Earlier this year, he was dispatched to a call, which I can't really give you the details about, but needless to say, it was one of the worst nightmares that either a parent or a professional firefighter, paramedic could ever face. During that call, Ty performed amazing work. He demonstrated outstanding performance, leadership, raising the standards of care for that patient. Through his actions, we are happy to report that the pediatric child made a full recovery and is now at home with his family. For that, Ty Toomey was picked as Employee of the Month. Congratulations, sir.
All right, we'd like to thank you and congratulate you for for your service, and I think we have a photographer that would like to take a picture. Get in the center. Turn around. Does that ever
We take direction from.
Thank you, and congratulations. Thank you. At this time, if you'll turn the podium around. Our next item will be an award presentation by Ms. Russell with the Florida League of Cities for our St. Cloud Economic Gardening Program. We welcome you. If you'll come forward, they're going to turn the podium around for you.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, council members, staff, and citizens. As stated, my name is Erin Russell. I am the Member Services Administrator from the Florida League of Cities, which is located in Tallahassee, Florida. And just for the benefit of the audience members who may have never heard of the Florida League of Cities, we have served as the united voice for Florida's 411 cities, towns, and villages for more than 100 years. And during that time, our mission has remained the same, which is to protect local decision-making, which allows local voices to make local choices. And so I do want to take a moment to say thank you to the city for being an active and dedicated member of the Florida League of Cities, and a special thank you to Mayor Blackwell for serving on the League's Board of Directors. The reason I'm here tonight, the Florida League of Cities has been awarding and recognizing outstanding cities, towns, and villages since 2009 through our Florida Municipal Achievement Award program. This program has 4 prestigious awards: environmental stewardship, local action, public engagement, and the award I'm here to present you with this evening, the Economic Advancement Award. The Economic Advancement Award focuses on a city program that supports, highlights, or partners with a city's local business community to improve the economic well-being of a city. And the City of St. Cloud did just that with your Downtown Economic Gardening Program. So this program was an approach to promote companies from growing within their own structure. The program was multiple layers of financial and technical assistance programs for businesses that have been affected by the pandemic or the prolonged construction of the city's streetscape project. So this program offered $190,000 in grants, technical support, fee waivers, and marketplace information for small and mid-sized businesses. And I think one of the best things about this program is that the city was able to recognize a need of the business local community and then successfully address it through your gardening program. So this program is a testament to city leadership for your guidance and a testament to your city staff who executed a very successful campaign. As I understand, this was a collaboration between many departments here at the city. The Florida Municipal Achievement Award is the highest award that we present to Florida cities, and this was our most competitive year yet. Your nomination was excellent, and your efforts in supporting your local business community is the reason why you're being awarded this award tonight. So beyond the trophy that I'm here to present you with today, you will be recognized in our statewide Quality Cities magazine. You'll be on the League's website and social media, and you've also been featured in our monthly webinar series, thanks to your Economic Development Director, Antoinette Forbes. She really sold this program on our webinar series, so if you haven't seen it, I would definitely encourage you to do so. So, without further ado, on behalf of the Florida League of Cities, I'm here to award you the Florida Municipal Achievement Award in the Economic Advancement category. Congratulations.
And it would not be complete without inviting Antoinette Forbes up, our Economic Development Director, and I'd like to invite all of our city council down to have a photo op with her and with you. And thank you so much for the recognition, and all of our staff has done an amazing job in making this possible.
Yeah.
The next item on our agenda is our Citizens Forum. Any person who desires to comment on any item not on this agenda is provided this opportunity to address the City Council. Each person is requested to complete a signing form to be provided to the presiding officer prior to or as soon as is practical after the person addresses the council. If you come forward, please state your name and address for the record, and we'll ask that you please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Would anyone like to address the council during the Citizens Forum? If not, we will move on to our next item, which is the consent agenda. The next portion of tonight's meeting is the consent agenda, which contains items that have been determined to be routine and non-controversial. If anyone in the audience wishes to address a particular item on the consent agenda, now is the opportunity for you to do so. Additionally, if staff or members of the City Council wish to speak on a consent item, they have the same opportunity. So the first thing, does anyone on the council have any of the items on the consent agenda that you're wanting to address? If not, does anyone in the audience like to address any of the items on the consent agenda? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion from Councilmember Matheny. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second, Councilmember Fletcher. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Urban.
Aye.
Councilmember Gilbert.
Aye.
Councilmember Fletcher.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Matheny.
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Wow. The next item on our agenda are public hearings. We'll begin with items 1 and 2. Madam Clerk.
Final public hearing for ordinance number 2024-42, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, assigning a future land use designation HDR High Density Residential to approximately plus minus .76 acres identified as 17th Street, located at the corner of Michigan Avenue between 17th Street and Russell Street, providing for amending the official future land use map of the comprehensive plan, filing of the Planning Commission recommendation and proof of publication, applicability and effects, severabilities, copies on files, and effective date. Final public hearing for ordinance number 2024-43, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, providing for the zoning amendment of the zoning map of the Land Development Code of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, specifically changing the zoning designation of approximately plus minus .76 acres identified as 17th Street from R-2 single and 2 family dwelling zoning designation to R-4 multifamily dwelling zoning designation with a high-density residential future land use designation adopted by ordinance number 2023-42, generally located at the corner of Michigan Avenue between 17th Street and Russell Street, providing for entering the designation on the official zoning map, filing of the Planning Commission recommendation and proof of publication, applicability and effects, severability, copies on files, and effective date.
Good evening, Melissa Dunklin, Community Development Director. The cases before you tonight are for the Comprehensive Plan Amendment and Zoning Map Amendment for the property known as 17th Street CPA ZMA. The property is generally located at the corner of Michigan Avenue and 17th Street. The existing future land use is medium-density residential, which allows 4 to 10 dwelling units per acre. The requested future land use is high-density residential, which allows more than 10, greater than 10, up to 18 dwelling units per acre. The existing zoning is R2, and that allows for single-family and two-family dwellings. The proposed zoning is for R4, multifamily dwelling. The request is compatible with the surrounding area and will have no adverse impacts on city facilities. Here are graphic representations of the future land use and zoning maps depicting the medium-density land use and the R2 single-family zoning, single-family and two-family zoning, rather. on or before June 24th, 2024. Staff recommended approval. Planning Commission also recommended approval. Likewise, it is requested that this council approve ordinance number 2024-42 and ordinance number 2024-43. At this time, staff and the applicant are available for questions.
Would the applicant like to speak to this item? Yes, sir. Please state your name and address, please.
John DeLulo, 1017 Lakeshore Boulevard.
Are you the applicant?
I am, yes.
Do you have something you'd like to say?
Yes, I'm just here to, trying to get the comp plan amendment changed and the zoning changed to do what I showed before, to do some triplexes in that area.
Okay. If you'll stand by here.
Yep.
In case there's any questions.
Sure.
Would anyone, well, I do have several people here in the audience. First of all, we'll take public comment. Jamila Petty?
Congratulations on saying my name right. Okay, so we've lived on Russell Street for, 13 years. Traffic's just gotten worse and worse and worse.
Could you state your address for the record?
761 Russell Street.
Thank you.
Traffic's just gotten worse and worse and worse. Where he wants to build that stuff was a field where a lot of the neighborhood kids would play, and we just don't have the room for that much more people. I mean, as it is, our street, you can't even go 2 cars at a time. And we've complained to the schools about the parking, we've complained to the police, and there's just not enough room for that much more there. No impact fees, that's kind of crazy too.
All right. Thank you very much. Taylor Keegan? Please state your name and address.
My name is Taylor, and I live at 720 17th Street. So last summer, my husband and I bought the house across the street from the plot of land in question. We bought the house based on its location, and we quickly grew to love the area. And we wanted to call this house our home for several years. However, the proposed rezoning of the land across from us has us questioning whether we want to stay there or not. The notice about the rezoning we originally received stated that 14 units with accommodated parking would be built there rather than duplexes, which is what it's currently zoned for. During the planning meeting, it was proposed that 4 triplexes would be built with accommodating parking with a new street dividing the land, connecting 17th and Russell. There were also several questions during the planning meeting that the property owner was unable to answer, such as whether he would rent or sell the units, and if he was renting, how much would the rent go for? I believe that the property owner knows that he's going to rent these units, otherwise he would not be pushing to add more. It's no secret that more units means more rental income. He also claimed that he would not be able to create the same design with duplexes, but that's simply not true. I'm not trying to prevent him from building. It's currently zoned for duplexes, and I just want to keep it that way. Of course, I would love the plot of land to stay empty, but again, I can't prevent him from building on his own property. However, putting additional homes than what it's currently zoned for is a bad idea. It's not consistent with the surrounding area. During the Planning Commission meeting, he was quick to focus on the fact that there are duplexes in the area, but ignored the fact that there are also several single-family homes, which mine is one of them. 2-story triplexes don't belong in that area. The additional building will compromise the existing infrastructure, like the roads and the public utilities. For example, Russell Street is basically a 1-lane road, and it doesn't have adequate draining and does not get properly cared for. It's also in a school zone, which is already bad enough in the mornings and afternoons during the school season. There's already no parking signs on 17th Street, And I already know that the parents are going to use that additional road to bypass the intersection, which will cause additional blockages and halt the additional traffic. Studies have also shown that an increase in housing density will decrease nearby property values. As a new homeowner, that's devastating to hear. I see I'm about to run out of time, I'm sorry. So I just want to jump ahead. I made a petition. It's already reached 330 signatures to oppose the rezoning. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Keegan. Mark you pronounce that last name for me before I mess it up.
Give it a shot. It's Procunier.
Procune, I like that.
Yes, 1800 Michigan Avenue.
Thanks,
My
sir.
address is Michigan Avenue, but I live on the corner of Russell and Michigan, directly across from the property in question. I don't have a PowerPoint presentation, but I have some photographs. Can I? Oh. I'm going to hit on some of the similar things they were talking about. I've lived in my house for 34 years. The Planning Commission, the Planning Commission has a 16-point criteria, 16 required findings of Section 3.4.3 C2A of the Land Development Code. And of those 16 things, one of them is about the drainage. And your staff, or that staff, said that there is no drainage issues. And the pictures I presented, you will see there was a recent thunderstorm where that whole area is flooded. And now he wants to add buildings and asphalt on porous ground, which, again, there is a drainage issue. So I don't know why they would say that. They haven't been out there. The traffic, as they have said, is terrible. There's also a couple pictures there. Russell becomes a one-lane road because all the parents pick up their kids. And as they said, this new development, or the triplex complex, will have a cut-through. There is going to be an issue, yeah, right there. That's outside of my house. I cannot get out of my driveway sometimes. Early release days, which is Wednesday, I cannot come home from work. I have to go to Winn-Dixie for about 30 minutes so I can get in my driveway. A lot of times 17th Street is backed up. Nothing's moving either direction. Russell is backed up. People come down Russell and want to turn right. Michigan Avenue is backed up. So therefore, I cannot get to my house. Again, he's able to build things on that lot. I don't have a problem with that. What I'm saying is more people in that area is not a good idea. That's outside my front door. You can see I can't leave. That traffic goes all the way down Russell. And that's every day. Usually the middle school is the worst. I don't know why. You would think, elementary parents would want to pick up their kids, but it's middle school. Maybe because they fight so much, I don't know. I have people parked there and they stand in front of my house waiting for their kids to walk down the sidewalk, get in their car and leave. That was a recent thunderstorm. That's where they say there's no drainage issue. That's Illinois and Russell. And those are all duplexes. I also included a picture of an aerial photograph of all the duplexes in the area. They're all one story. And as they stated, he's wanting to go two-story triplexes. Again, high density is not good for that area. I believe it'd be better somewhere else. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would anyone else in the audience like to speak to these two items? Would the applicant like to address any of the concerns that have been shared? If not, we'll have discussion and/or motion by council.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I just want to make sure to clarify one thing, and maybe Melissa can help out. With regard to the drainage, the staff recommendation wasn't that the drainage is acceptable. The staff recommendation is, as in a lot of these projects, is the project, when developed, will have to meet required stormwater drainage. Will basically will have to take care of its own the water runoff from the property. So I don't think staff has said the drainage there is good.
That is correct. So what we do in our staff report is the first response under the 16 findings, you will state what the applicant said. So what the citizen, I'm so sorry, I forgot the gentleman's name, was referring to was the applicant's response, and then directly below that, staff's response is in the italicized text, and we just basically put pursuant to Article 6 of the Land Development Code, stormwater management systems shall be provided for all areas of the development and accommodate the runoff that flows into or across the development area without additional flooding of any other lands. Any proposed stormwater system will be reviewed during the site development plan process. So at this point, it's a little too early in the process for us to review for those items. Once they submit for the site development plan, that's when we'll review for that.
Thank you. In regard to ordinance number 2024-42, our first item, do we have a motion for adoption?
I just had a couple of questions. So, do we know how many houses are permitted to be built on this property already? Is it,
Melissa, can you answer that?
Sure. So this case is a little unique in that they have several lots that they eventually want to propose to do lot combinations. So right now, they can build duplexes. However, it would be minimal. I think it would be up to 8 would fit on site because of the way the lots are laid out. With what they're proposing, even if the land use and zoning allow for that many units, they have less than an acre, and they still have to accommodate for open space and drainage and parking, so most likely they're going to get nowhere near that number.
okay, thank you. And I definitely understand it. First of all, I want to thank the residents for speaking tonight. I do understand. I drive down Michigan Avenue every day, especially during school time. It's an absolute mess there. I would love to work with the school district to help manage that flow better, because it just gets really backed up and it's a mess. But with that said, I believe that this would potentially improve what could go there over duplexes personally, because they could put 7 or 8 houses there, maybe less with some of the open space requirements. But I think this is a little bit of at least what he proposed was a nice concept. So just my thoughts.
Do we have any other Councilmember Fletcher?
Yes, I actually, it seems like I start this off every time. Grew up in that neighborhood, played with the old owners of the property. Over there used to be a little dollhouse and all kinds of different stuff out there when we were kids. And I think with what he's proposing, it actually would improve it. Because he could go in and build now, and then you'd have all the driveways would then theoretically back out onto Michigan Avenue, 17th Street. With this, if you're going to go with the internal roadway with rear-loaded product, I think it would end up being better. And then I don't know if I can get the drainage question answered, is if he builds, what improvements would have to be made to Russell? Are there any improvements that would have to be made to Russell, or would it depend on what's built? Because Russell is very tight.
So it doesn't appear that this property is, sorry, let me zoom in a bit. Yeah, it would not, they would not have to improve all of Russell. If they have to make any improvements, they would only have to improve the portions that are directly adjacent to their development. And that depends on how they do it. If they come in and do it as a site development plan or subdivision construction plan, then yes, what the applicant has proposed is to do lot combinations so that they can build on an individual lot, so they would be treated more like a single-family development, even though it's not. So, a little loophole in our code there.
Okay.
Do we have any other discussion? I certainly agree with, in my discussion with staff, that what has been proposed would actually be an improvement over what could actually be done there now. And so, they certainly would have to maintain the drainage on their own site, which that would be an engineering issue that you're going to have to address. Do I have any other comment? Could I entertain a motion one way or the other?
I'll make a motion to approve.
We have a motion for the approval of item number 2024-42. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second from, a motion from Councilmember Urban, a second from Councilmember Fletcher. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Gilbert?
Nay.
Councilmember Fletcher?
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Matheny?
No.
Councilmember Urban?
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell?
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0. 3-2, sorry.
Could I entertain a motion for the adoption of item number 2?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion from Councilmember Urban. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Councilmember Fletcher. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember Fletcher?
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Matheny?
No.
Councilmember Urban?
Aye.
Councilmember Gilbert?
Nay.
Mayor Blackwell?
Aye.
Motion carries 3-2.
The item's carried. Madam Clerk, that brings us to items 3, 4. Could you please read those two items in the record?
Final public hearing for ordinance number 2024-39, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, assigning a future land use designation, MDR, medium-density residential to approximately plus minus 23.28 acres, identified as Eden Living PUD, located south of Haywood Ruffin Road, east of South Narcousie Road, west of Puffin Road, north of Lillian Lee Road, providing for amending the official future land use map of the comprehensive plan, filing of the Planning Commission recommendation and proof of publication, applicability and effect, suburbility, copies on files, and effective date. Final public hearing for ordinance number 2024-40, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, assigning a zoning district of PUD plan unit development compatible with a medium-density residential future land use designation change adopted by ordinance number 2024-39 for approximately plus minus 23.28 acres identified as Eden Living PUD located south of Haywood Ruffin Road, east of South Narcousie Road, west of Puffin Road, north of Lillian Lee Road, providing for the entering the designation on the official zoning map, providing for approval of the preliminary master plan, filing of the Planning Commission recommendation and proof of publication, suburbility, and effective date.
Thank you. Good evening. Again, it's Melissa Dunklin, Community Development Director. The request before you tonight is for a comprehensive plan amendment and a PUD, planned unit development, that includes their preliminary master plan, known as Eden Living PUD. The existing future land use is low-density residential, which allows up to 4 dwelling units per acre. The applicant is requesting to change their land use to medium-density residential, which allows up to 10 dwelling units per acre. The existing zoning is agricultural, and they are requesting a PUD. The proposed development is compatible with the surrounding area and will have no adverse impacts on city facilities. Here are graphic representations of the future land use and zoning map depicting the low-density residential land use and the agricultural zoning for context. The proposed PUD is approximately 23 acres and will build 216 build-to-rent dwelling units. This averages to approximately 9.27 dwelling units per acre. The proposed development will provide a unique housing choice for St. Cloud's growing population and will include a mix of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units in both detached and attached multifamily units. The development will be a professionally managed community, which includes maintenance of all the open spaces, concierge trash service, AC filter maintenance, yard maintenance for their fenced-in yards, and their amenities will include a pool, fitness center, tot lot, and community clubhouse, including benches and wayfinding nature signs throughout the community. Let's talk a little bit about their development standards that will go above and beyond the minimum requirements of the Land Development Code. They are proposing to provide increased tree requirements up to 90 inches per acre of trees instead of the currently required 60 inches in our Land Development Code. They are also proposing both active and passive recreation, along with their community amenities. They're providing a resort-style pool, outdoor kitchen, tot lot, dog park with dog wash, outdoor yoga space, a high-end fitness center with commercial-grade fitness equipment, and small private workspaces. They are also offering enhanced landscape buffers with an increased number of plants, and they're increasing their size of their trees to 16 to 18 feet at planting. And this features educational and wayfinding signage and foundation planting, so they'll have plantings at the perimeter of the actual units. They are also proposing to have electric vehicle parking, and they're offering public art, which will include uniquely designed bicycle racks and a pink flamingo. They are also going to meet our residential architectural standards that are currently in our LDC for single-family residential developments. Here's an illustration of the proposed layout of the PUD. All the roadways will be privately maintained and have an access easement over all of the roadways and drive aisles for the use of the public to offer connectivity to the adjacent developments. They'll have stub outs to the north and to the east. On or before May 23rd, 2024, staff recommended approval. Planning Commission also recommended approval with conditions. However, since the Planning Commission meeting, the applicant has resubmitted their package, and they have addressed all of Planning Commission's recommendations for conditions, so that there are no conditions of approval to go over at this time. Oops. It is requested that City Council approve ordinance number 2024-39 and ordinance 2024-40. At this time, staff and the applicant are available for questions.
Would the applicant like to speak to this item or these two items?
Good evening, Mayor. Steve Noto, RVI Planning and Landscape Architecture, 111 North Magnolia Avenue, Suite 1350, Orlando, Florida, 32803. Representing the developer and the applicant this evening. Thank you all for having us. I do have a quick presentation that I'll go through as well this evening. I do want to take a moment to introduce the project team that is here this evening. They're all behind me. We have Rob Bias, who's our landscape director at the Orlando office of RBI. We also have Patrick Murray, project planning manager from Atwell Engineering, Kaiwen Liu from TMC, transportation engineers, Ayman Isidi, and from Nelson Mullins, Joe Thacker, who is the project attorney. Very many thanks to staff for getting us here this evening. It is a unique project, as they have mentioned and as I'll get into throughout the presentation. It's taken a lot of collaboration because of the uniqueness, so we're very excited to be here this evening to talk about the project. As mentioned, it's just over 23 acres on Narcousie Road. Current zoning is A, agricultural, future land use is low-density residential, and we're requesting to go to PUD with a land use amendment of LDR to MDR. The build-to-rent is a rather unique housing type. I have many talking points that I'll go through this evening to kind of emphasize the uniqueness, why it's needed generally in the market, the benefits it'll bring to St. Cloud, and some of the benefits that'll be brought to the specific project here in St. Cloud. We are proposing 212 build-to-rent units. There'll be a mixture of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom. The BTR is essentially a new form of housing that has the comforts of single-family detached living with all the headaches, with no headaches at all, really, I would say, of all that comes along with owning a single-family detached home. You can have your own fenced-in backyard, have outdoor entertainment space, and enjoy resort-like amenities such as the pool and some of the other features that I'll go through this evening. The build-to-rent is a new type of form being constructed all over the nation. It's a form of missing middle housing. As we all know, the cost of housing to own is getting very high, and so there are different forms of product entering the market, and build-to-rent is one of those to help solve that challenge. It helps to increase the amount of diverse housing stock within a community and will provide the city a unique rental product that is similar in nature to a traditional single-family community. The individual units, and this is a unique item here for rental, for detached structures, the units will be owned by the master developer, Eden Living. The community will not be platted, the buildings will not be sold off, they will not be condos, they'll continue to be owned by the master developer. And so you will always be a renter in Eden Living, you will not have the option to own. In addition to that, you do not share your walls. Aside from some duplex buildings, your walls are your walls. You have no wall neighbors above, below, next to you, which if you've rented before can be a nice positive. I've had renters above me before and they set off the fire sprinklers and ruined my walls. So that's a nice positive in this community. Eden Living has a positive track record. They have multiple projects currently under construction in Florida. Eden Heritage Lakes in West Melbourne, which is 30 minutes to the east of here. Eden at Kendall Lakes in Jacksonville, Eden Magnolia Village in Wildwood, and Eden at Tradition in Port St. Lucie. The image that you see on the overhead, and I'll have a number of images to share with you this evening, is from their project in West Melbourne, the amenity building. As mentioned by staff, we are requesting two parts to this project. First is a small-scale future land use map amendment to allow up to 10 units per acre, 10 dwelling units per acre rather, which could get us up to 232 units, but we're staying at 212. It is a type of residential infill project that is consistent with the policies that are outlined in the MDR residential future land use designation city's comp plan. We do concur with the city staff's findings on the request. As I mentioned, it will increase the unique housing types and increase the housing variety within the city. And it encourages mixed medium-density residential dispersed throughout the city. I'll mention a comment on, as I get into the project itself, one of the items that we're doing to go above and beyond, I'll clarify one of the staff findings. We're also requesting a rezone from agricultural to PUD, planned unit development. As I mentioned, requesting a maximum of 212 dwelling units with a mixture of 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms. And we are also concurring with staff's findings in the staff report, the recommendation, and again, increase in housing variety and type, and it supports the Envision St. Cloud citywide master plan. So I'd like to walk you through the project, the preliminary master plan as is shown on the overhead. You have this in your packet as well. We have 2 points of access off of South Narcoossee. Both are across the street from Turtle Creek and the preserve at Turtle Creek. You can see those access points shown on the overhead. All of the infrastructure, I'd like to emphasize, is going to be built at one time. So you'll notice that the southern access point is in this hatched area. That is a separate parcel that is not part of our project. That'll be developed separately. So we have a significant setback of the structures that will be constructed from South Narcoossee. So that kind of increases the buffer and visibility from South Narcoossee. And it's a good time to mention as well, these are all 1 and 2 story units. So unlike garden apartments that are typically built between 3 and 5 stories tall, these are only going to be 1 and 2 story buildings. As you come in off the north access point, which is the main access point, you kind of snake through the stormwater ponds. The pond on the south will be amenitized with a fountain. The pond on the interior of the project will also be amenitized with a fountain. There will also be benches and walking paths adjacent to both of those ponds. In working with staff, we put in cross-access areas, vehicular and pedestrian, to the neighboring Lakeside at Satia subdivision that is going to be under construction. So that allows for all traffic from within our community, and if the neighboring community so wishes, they can traverse through using the public access easements to get to Narcoossee and avoid other side roads. I'll provide more detail about the preliminary master plan as we go through and show you some of the amenities that we are offering on the project. The unit sizes of the 1, 2, and 3 bedroom range from just under 800 square feet to roughly 1,600 square feet. 456 parking spaces are being provided throughout the community. That includes parking garage structures and, as staff mentioned, EV, electric vehicle parking spaces. This is an aerial view of the proposed project. This is looking west. The main road there, of course, is Narcousie. You can get an idea of the visibility and the view of the main access road as you're looking west. And then this is a supplemental image, similar looking, I'm sorry, that was looking east. This is looking west to Narcousie, and you can see the amenity center and the buildings throughout the community and the parking lot. What is hard to see on this aerial, though, is the backyards. As I mentioned, each individual structure will have its own fenced-in backyard, which when it comes to rental product, unless you're renting from a personal landlord or a corporate landlord that has his own multiple single-family structures, you are not going to have a fenced-in backyard. You may just have general open space throughout your community. So I want to take a few moments to talk about how the project does go above and beyond, and we put together these slides in coordination with staff and wanting to tell a unique story that comes along with this project. And these are all images from the West Melbourne project. And something I'll want to point out is the architecture, the building architecture of the St. Cloud project far exceeds the building architecture that was done in the Melbourne project. And so the images you'll see, please keep that in mind, that what will be built here in St. Cloud will be quite impressive. And the renderings of those buildings are in your staff report and in this presentation as well. So what you're looking at here is the amenity building. And upon entering, you'll notice, and it's a little hard to see in these pictures, very large ceiling heights within the amenity building, roughly 20, if not more, feet in ceiling height. All high-end amenities, all high-end finishes throughout not only the entryway, but also the communal spaces as you enter through the amenity center. And so this is open to all residents of the community. There's a common living space and a common coffee bar area, which is well stocked. And it has a communal kitchen as well. And as you can see, the finishes that are throughout that amenity center, all modern touches that of course change very quickly over time, so they are able to adapt well. As you go through the amenity center, you have pool tables, bocce tables. You also have private Zoom rooms. So in the event you need to get out of your home and take a call and you need to stretch a little bit, the spaces that have the doors, you can close those for some private time and have your Zoom meeting, your Teams meeting, or whatever it may be. And then you also have a little reading nook just to the side. Now this, when I took the tour of the site, this is where I stopped, and I kind of wanted to stop taking the tour because I thought I had just found what I was looking for. This is the fitness center within the facility. These are all very high-end equipment that you would see at a very expensive monthly membership commercial gym. All Nautilus equipment, ranging from CrossFit equipment, cardio equipment. You have a Smith machine, dumbbells, free weights, anything you could want out of a personal fitness equipment area you have here at the Eden Lit project. On the outside, you have the resort level pool area, which includes an outdoor lawn for yoga space. Cornhole, as you see there, a little tough to see in the picture. On the bottom left is also an outdoor kitchen. When talking about the building renderings, as I mentioned, the Eden St. Cloud project will far exceed the architecture that is in the West Melbourne project. And we work closely with staff and the developer's architect to come up with these renderings. These run with the PD, so this is what you can expect to see on the ground, if you will. There are 2 different elevation types for each type of structure. So as I mentioned, you have 1 bed, 2 bed, and 3 beds. So the 1 bed has multiple color finishes, and each structure will, of course, have its own foundation landscaping plan as seen in the landscape code. This is the duplex structure with 2 different elevation types, as you can see. And this is the 3-bedroom, which is a 2-story unit. And I'll mention that the 3-bedroom unit also has 3 bathrooms. I want to talk about the enhanced community landscaping. The code minimum for a medium buffer type, and so we're doing a hybrid of the medium buffer, is it requires 3 large trees for every 100 linear feet, 1 medium or small tree for every 100 linear feet, and then 15 shrubs for every 100 linear. We're just about doubling that. We're providing 5 large trees for every 100, 3 medium or small for every 100, and then 34 shrubs for every 100 linear feet. So this is the cross-section of what is known as buffers C, D, E, and F. This is essentially the north, east and south and kind of around closer to the entrance of the community. This was something that was put together in collaboration with staff as we work through the type of buffering that would be appropriate to provide in this community. And as previously mentioned as well, there would be wayfinding signage, environmental signage placed within the landscape buffers to add a little more than just having trees in your backyard. One thing I'll point out, one of the first things that was mentioned as far as enhancements that we're providing is the number of trees throughout the community. It was at 90 inches per acre. It's actually closer to 62 inches per acre. We're over 1,400 inches total of trees within the community. If we were to do the 90, that would be another 200 trees. We have our land, there's a reason why Rob is here this evening. In the event we need to kind of get into the weeds about the differences between providing 1,400 inches throughout the entire project as opposed to, say, 2,000, which would be required in this case. It just becomes a spacing issue for all those types of trees. Now, having said that, the landscape plan that is part of the plans is designed at the 62. So it is the one that staff reviewed as part of the project. So we would ask is if recommended for approval, which we hope you do, that you take that portion into account, please. This is the landscape buffer section. When you're looking at the project from South Narcoossee, it does include a wall in this section, separating it between the future project that'll be built that'll front South Narcoossee. And then this is a cross section as you're coming in off of the northern entrance from Narcoossee. So you can see it'll be well landscaped with large trees. There will be benches along that area as well, and then you can get a view of the fountain in the southern pond. All of the buildings within the community will also have their own foundation landscaping. Each floor plan has its own landscape plan, and so that ensures that along the sidewalks and in the interior courtyards, they have foundation landscaping and different landscape treatments directly adjacent to all the buildings. Here are some images of the insides of the units. And so this is where things continue. The uniqueness continues for the project. All high-end finishes as it relates to the floor. You have granite countertops, energy efficient stainless steel appliances. You have power outlets built into the walls, which sounds normal, but they're raised up. So in the event you want to hang your television and you're not great at wiring, or if you don't want to have to call the 24/7 property maintenance folks to come out and do it for you, it is all pre-wired for that. So that is a nice amenity touch that is provided in each unit, and that actually exists in the bedrooms as well. This is an image of the living room. You can see, and off to the left, you can see the bathroom. There's also, each unit has its own in-home laundry as well. And some of the units have side-by-sides, some have stackable. And then here you can get an idea of the backyard area. And one thing that we're also going to be working on is to work on the view shed. So there's certain areas within the community where as you're coming in off the street, you're going to be looking at different fence finishes. And so we didn't want to, in talking with staff, we didn't want to create a situation where we have, say, a 6-foot PVC fence blocking what could be an open view shed. So in those certain areas, we'll have the split rail type of fencing. I'll walk you through some of the interior community features. And as you can see on the map, so it starts with, on the south side, the dog wash and dog park. We have the amenitized ponds, both internal and external, adjacent to South Narcoossee. Community connections to Lakeside at Satia, both vehicular and pedestrian. You have electric vehicle parking spaces, and then there is also a tot lot and yoga space directly adjacent to the amenity building. Now, all prospective tenants are required to have background checks and income checks for qualifications. There are no short-term leases allowed, only long-term. It is not affordable housing, it is market rate. Individual units will not be sold, as I mentioned, and the property will continue to be owned by Eden Living. The property will be professionally managed by a third party with daily on-site management and maintenance team, and common everyday items such as valet trash and AC filter replacement, fire alarm battery replacements, etc., are handled by the on-site management team. And the one other community amenity is the Pink Flamingo. This is something that is provided in every Eden Living project, and it will be provided here at the project in St. Cloud. Earlier this year in March, we did hold a neighborhood information meeting. 702 notices were sent out to the public. We held the meeting at Grace Community Church. 4 people attended in person, and there were 6 Zoom attendees. We had no major comments or objections provided to us about the project. So to summarize briefly, Eden Living St. Cloud provide a unique and context-sensitive housing solution in the city of St. Cloud, meets and exceeds the requirements of the Land Development Code and the Comp Plan. The project will provide for connections to neighboring communities. There will be high-quality architecture provisions to ensure the most unique Eden Living architecture product to date. And Eden Living St. Cloud will offer residents the comfort of traditional single-family homes without all of the hassles of homeownership. We have other members of our team happy to take any questions you may have, and I, of course, am available for any questions you have as well.
Thank you. You will remain available?
Yes, sir.
At this time, we'll receive public comment. Betty Dempke. You're done. I'm sorry. You're through.
Well, Stephen just covered everything I was going to say, so I'm not going to be redundant. I had my speech prepared.
If you'll state your address, please.
Betty Damke, 4776 Hidden Heights Trail, St. Cloud.
Thank you.
I strongly urge you to approve this community. I know you've heard me in the past yelling for larger lots and all of this, but there's a time and a place for everything. And this is a perfect place for this type of community. I have been to there with other residents. We were given a tour of their Melbourne facility, and believe me, seeing it in person is a lot different than looking at lines on a piece of paper. Veronica will attest to that. So often, the word rental reflects a negative concept, and we need to rethink that. There are many professional people in our community who prefer not to own. My grandson being one of them, he could go buy a new home right now. He says, I don't want the upkeep. I want to spend my money in other ways. There are others that are saving to buy a home. And then we get down to the people like myself. I have a 2,500 square foot on an acre of land. Sean, you've been there. I'm having to look and consider downsizing. I can no longer maintain it by myself. This is the perfect community for me to go to where I can have my own individual home. I will not go into an apartment complex. I can have my privacy, my own home, and my own yard, but not the problems that I have now where I am. It's a high-scale community, and the important thing to me is it is managed by the development company. Of course, they're going to take pride in their ownership, and they're going to control what goes on there. You can have the most exquisite neighborhood with beautiful homes and then be rented out, and there's no oversight of who or how many are in that home or what goes on in that home. This you do. As he said, they even come in and change the air filters so they can sort of observe if they're more than should be. Again, I've been to the one in Melbourne, and from what I've heard from all the representatives, this one is even going to be greater than that. And one thing I learned today is the facades will have, although they have models, the facades on the front are different almost for each individual cottage, from the wood to the stone to things like that. So we're not getting another cookie cutter where every fourth house looks the same. I, again, please recommend that you approve this. It will be a welcome partner to the city of St. Cloud.
Thank you, Ms. Damke. Chrissy, I do it every time. You help me again on that last name?
I sure can. Christy Malukowicz, 1820 Puffin Road, St. Cloud, Florida.
Malukowicz, right?
You got it.
Did I get it?
You got it.
Give that girl an extra 10 seconds.
We only have two more meetings, if you could come back.
The Eden Living Community will be located directly across the street from my home on 5 acres. The representative from Eden took the time to meet with me and Betty for a tour of their Melbourne community. Not only do their communities provide upscale cottages and amenities, but they also explain their management criteria, which ensures quality residence. Eden Living is a very well-thought-out concept that will attract renters who are looking for a freestanding residence. As an owner-managed community, the property will be well-maintained, which will in turn positively complement the surrounding community. I am in agreement with Betty Damke's assessment and recommendation to move forward with the development of Eden Living. I would like to end with complimenting Eden Development on how they worked with the community to resolve any issues or concerns. If more developers worked with existing residents as Eden has, we would not have some of the problems that now exist throughout Osceola County. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Monkowitz.
I think that's right.
I think I got it right.
8 years
again.
later.
Practice makes perfect. Would anyone else in the audience like to speak to these items?
I
If
believe
not, we'll
staff,
take-
I believe staff had one point she wanted to make.
Go right ahead.
Hi, Melissa Dunklin, Community Development Director. I just wanted to point out that the PUD ordinance right now says 90 inches of trees per acre. So if council is okay with the 62 inches per acre, then we just need to clarify that for the record so we can make that amendment to the ordinance.
All right. Councilmember Matheny.
Thanks. I have scribbled some notes here. First, I want to, probably like most of us, I met with the development team to discuss this project. I had a couple questions, but I mean, it all looks great on paper, and we've had a lot of really good adjectives like, you know, high end, and let me see, exceeds architectural standards, expansive, you know. So not saying I have been burned before, but I've been burned before up here, you know, where we'll get shown certain things in the presentation. And then at the very end of this presentation, he said, this is market rate. And so we've had that happen to us before where people come and show us beautiful. I was like, wow, that's amazing. I want to live there. That apartment is wonderful. And then they'll say, well, it's market rate, which is meaning they could change it depending on the market. So I guess to help allay my fears, I don't know if we can make their presentation part of our approval so that it's in general conformance with that. I don't know if you have a problem with that, but that's just happened to us before where they come. I'm sure the city manager remembers the specific incident, but once he said market rate, I was like, eek. So that has me a little concerned. I want to compliment, you know, that the interconnectivity to the other areas, and definitely the mayor and I will remember previous applications on this property, and this is a huge improvement, definitely. So, you know, those are all positives, but yeah, I just wanted to, I have that worry when you say market rate. Also, and I don't think it was covered in that presentation, was the number of parking spaces, because I don't believe they're doing the 4.5 parking spaces that we want when I had my conversation. And so one of the things I was using to help myself be more comfortable with that was the fact that they own the roads. Because our problem that we have in the city is, you know, we can't really seem to enforce it. We can't really seem to enforce parking. It's like a whole thing. But I was like, well, if they own the roads, they own the community, they own the rental agreements, then they have more ability to enforce parking. I mean, maybe they can tell us what the parking that they have on that is. And then I wanted to just belt and suspenders a question. It came up where they were going to maintain the roads, but they're maintaining every single thing inside of this property, correct? Every single thing, the ponds, the landscaping, the roads, the sidewalks, everything, you know, so you're confirming that? Okay, so that's what I just wanted to just double check. So I guess my pending question for someone to answer or hear how the other council feels is just about how to, you know, we've had a lot of promises in this presentation. I just want to make sure that, you know, I don't go in there after it's built and I'm like, wah, wah. That's not what they promised.
I'd like to ask Dan, is there any way that you can address the concerns that she has said in, as far as our
So are you looking for
contract?
their actual presentation to be incorporated?
Well, I know that when I had my call with them, they said they were going to put into the approval the renderings, right? So that's like kind of part of it. But then it's just like, oh, here's this amazing clubhouse and it's high ceilings. And I just want to make sure, you know, that when at the end of the day, when we go back there, we're all like pleasantly surprised and not sad.
The word is not pleasant, sadly.
Joe Thacker,
Yes.
17 South Orlando Avenue, Kissimmee. We are happy to make the presentation part of the record, and the renderings are actually part of the PD approval. So all of that is included, and happy to have that be on the record.
And I'm totally fine with saying it's like insubstantial conformance, like it doesn't have to be, you know, but just so like the context of it is in the approval. Can you tell me how many parking spaces you have?
452?
428?
456.
And how many is 4.5?
Well, this goes by the multifamily code, and it exceeds or meets the multifamily code of 2.25.
Right, so it's low parking. That was the comment I had when I had my meeting with them. I don't know why our multifamily parking is so low, because that makes no sense to me, but since they control the entire property, I'm like, it's their problem, they can deal with it.
And they haven't had any other problems with parking at other facilities that they own and manage. So they feel confident. You know, if parking doesn't work for them from a marketing standpoint, nobody's going to live there. So they absolutely feel like that should be adequate, and they will control. If it gets out of hand, they will handle it.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Gilbert.
Well,
Wait a second, Mr. Manzares.
I was just going to point out, if you do get to the point and you want to make a motion to incorporate it, it would be included in the second item with regard to the PUD and the section 2 of that item.
All right,
I've written all over my stuff like a crazy person.
thank you, Ms. Ayers.
Number 4?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Gilbert?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Some of your comments that you'd made covered some of my questions, but I would really like to thank you all for being well-prepared and well-represented. I hope some other developers that come here would do their due diligence and their hard work and up front, so these things are taken care of. But you would ask the questions that I did, but we certainly appreciate your preparedness and your representation, and I hope other developers would go that way, so it's a clearer message to us versus the questions. So thank you. That's it. I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Fletcher. Councilmember Fletcher next.
I have two comments to make. One to the development team. Obviously, thank you for working with the community. I've been listening to Miss Betty Demke speak since I was 18 years old, and I have no idea how you got her blessing.
I was thinking the same thing.
But the reason why you got the blessing is because it is a good project. You've worked with our staff, and you've worked with the community. I did want to point out to Deputy Mayor Matheny, I was concerned about the parking as well. One of the items, I'll just read it, I saved here. It says, all parking shall be accommodated on the development site in approved parking areas. At no time shall parking be allowed in prohibited areas, including but not limited to parking on roadways or drive aisles, blocking roadways, driveways, and other access ways, except in parking spaces approved as part of the final master plan, construction plan, or site development plan. At no time, parking shall restrict emergency vehicles from circulating. So when I read that, I was kind of like, all right, that kind of, every car has to be in a parking spot, so they just can't park anywhere. I was actually going to bring it up in my time later on this evening to see if we could add that to like all of our PDs, because I think that would help with some of our other developments going forward. But good job.
Councilmember Matheny.
Thank you. The difference we have, Sean, is enforcement is the problem, right? And so even if we put it in the PUD, it's like the enforcement, but because they own everything, they can control their own destiny, right? But when it's in our right of way, we never can get the enforcement.
They couldn't be cited for the actual PD ordinance?
Yes.
They could.
Yes.
They could, but.
And the reality is, because it's a.
It doesn't happen.
But the reality is,
happen.
from a code enforcement perspective, because it's a unified ownership, we would likely get a lot more compliance because we'd have one owner to go
Right.
to and say, hey, you got a PD violation out here, you got to fix it.
Melissa, would you clarify again what they're saying about the tree situation, and what is what is staff's recommendation?
Sure. So in the current draft of the ordinance, it says that there will be 90 inches of trees per acre. What they demonstrated on their plan is 62, so there was a little bit of an inconsistency, but we were satisfied with what they demonstrated on their plan.
Okay. Do we have any other discussion? Could I entertain a motion for the first item, 2024-39?
Motion to approve with the differing, with the 60, was it 62 and a half?
For the next item.
Oh, hurt the trees too?
Yeah, that'll be.
Oh, okay, motion to approve.
Okay,
Second.
we have a motion from Councilmember Athena, second from Councilmember Urban, is that correct? I did hear you.
Yes, sir.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Deputy Mayor Matheny?
Aye.
Councilmember Urban?
Aye.
Councilmember Gilbert?
Aye.
Councilmember Fletcher?
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Could I have a motion in regard to item number 2024-40?
Okay, motion to approve,
Motion from Councilmember.
but include the PowerPoint presentation for reference in substantial conformance with what they've presented here. And then also with the differing trees that is in the submittal, 62.
We have a motion from Councilmember Athena with the conditions that she has stated. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second, Councilmember Fletcher. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Urban?
Aye.
Councilmember Gilbert?
Aye.
Councilmember Fletcher?
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Matheny?
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
God bless America. All right. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, could you please read item number 5 into our record today?
Final public hearing for ordinance number 2024-48, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of St. Cloud, Osceola County, Florida, creating and enacting Chapter 42 Traffic and Vehicles, Article 6 School Zone Speed Enforcement, Section 42-120 through 42-135, providing for finding, purpose, intent, and definition, establishing a school zone speed enforcement program, and authorizing the use of speed detection system within the city, providing for program implementation requirements and designation and administrative procedures, providing for conflict codification, publication, and an effective date.
Thank you, Chief.
Good evening, Mayor, distinguished council members, Doug Gerke, Chief of Police. The matter before you this evening is ordinance 2024-48, which will give amendments to the school speed zone enforcement. To give some background, on July 1st of 2023, House Bill 657 was passed. It was codified under Chapter 2023-174 of the laws of Florida, making it effective. What it does is it authorizes municipalities to implement speed detection systems for the enforcement of speed limits in school zones during designated periods. The introduction of these speed detection systems is multifaceted. It's intended to heighten public awareness of school zone safety regulations, mitigate speeding, and ultimately enhance safety. The ordinance calls for a speed study in designated school zones to determine if a heightened safety risk exists, which is what I'm going to present to you today. So the speed measurement dates were taken over 3 days. It was during the midweek in January. It was Tuesday, January 30th, 2024, Wednesday, January 31st, 2024, and Thursday, February 1st, 2024. The school speed zone samples were all 7 of our schools, which is St. Cloud High School, St. Cloud Middle School, Michigan Avenue Elementary, Canoe Creek K through 8, St. Cloud Elementary, Lakeview Elementary, and Neptune Elementary schools. To give you just some more background on this, the ordinance, and once it goes into effect, if you so choose to, it does require signage to warn motorists that speed detection systems are in use. So you will be seeing signage in the school zones with flashing lights. We also require a 30-day public awareness campaign prior to any enforcement action taking place. The breakdown is here for your knowledge. Your $100 penalty for each violation, $60 from each citation will go to local governments, $12 from each citation for county school districts, $5 from each citation funds a school crossing guard program. It's a recruitment and retention program. It's important to note that this also, these fines prohibit points from being imposed on a violation. It also prohibits such violations from being used for purposes of setting motor vehicle insurance rates. So there's a lot of data here, but what I do have is there's 12 cameras that were utilized in the 7 school districts, and each one of these are broken down. So I'll go through each one of these cameras to show you what we have here. Some of them are pretty high. You're going to see a 47% potential violation rate in some of the school districts, but it does vary. So we'll start with the first school camera, which was at St. Cloud High School, St. Cloud Middle School, and Michigan Avenue Elementary School. And this was located northbound at 2015 Michigan Avenue. On the right side of the screen is what we're really looking at here on the 3 days. Over the 3 days of period, we had 4,600 vehicles over a 3-day period. Beacon enforcement, there was 134 violations. I want to point out what beacon is versus non-beacon. Beacon is when the lights are flashing and it actually makes the school speed zones come down lower. Non-beacon, it would go back to the normal speed zone, and they're listed at the bottom of your page here. So in the 3-day total at St. Cloud High School, St. Cloud Middle School, Michigan Avenue Elementary School, 4,614 vehicles passed with 134 violations. That is during the beacon enforcement when the beacons are flashing. And then there was an additional 2,007 vehicles when just normal school hours are open, and there was 158 violations. And if you look at the bottom, there is some trigger speeds there, 134 violations at the 15 posted speed limit, and you can see some of them are getting up there pretty high in the 36 to 40 mile an hour range. So moving to the next, which would be St. Cloud High School, St. Cloud Middle School, Michigan Avenue Elementary School, but this is at a different location now. This is at 1601 Michigan Avenue, facing southbound. For beacon enforcement, 3,733 vehicles, generating 255 violations. Non-beacon was 1,871 vehicles with 36 violations during the normal time. And again, at the bottom, you can see where the bulk of these are coming in, 255 potential violations that are going over to trigger speed of 26, which is 10 miles an hour or over, so it would generate at 11 miles an hour over the posted speed limit. Okay. The next one is going to be 2588 Michigan Avenue, St. Cloud High School, St. Cloud Middle School, Michigan Avenue Elementary School. Once again, we're looking at during the beacon times, 4,653 vehicles with a violation rate of 424 vehicles. Wow. Between the beacon enforcement, when the lights are turned back off but the school is open, we had 1,625 vehicles pass through with 197 violations. Moving on to St. Cloud High School, St. Cloud Middle School, Michigan Avenue Elementary School. And the location of this is southbound 1800 Michigan Avenue. Again, 4,924 vehicles passed through in the 3-day period during beacon times, flashing, with 142 violations. Between the beacon enforcement, 2,233 with 75 violations. Canoe Creek K through 8, northbound 3755 Canoe Creek Road, at County Road 523. 3,555 vehicles during the beacon times when the lights are flashing, and there was 786 violations. 786 violations, and if you look down under there, some of the speeds are in the 51 to 55 mile an hour range in a posted 20 mile an hour zone, which the trigger speed would come off at 31. Between the beacon enforcement, it was much lower. It was 7,078 vehicles with only 7 violations because of the higher speeds. Canoe Creek K through 8, this is going to be southbound 3626 Canoe Creek Road at County Road 523. 3,212 vehicles during the Beacon, 98 violations. Between Beacon enforcement, 7,345 vehicles with 2 violations. On to St. Cloud Elementary School. Northbound Budinger Avenue, 1,616 vehicles came through during the Beacon enforcement over those 3 days, with 262 violations. Between the Beacon enforcement, when the lights are not flashing, 2,787 vehicles passed, with 130 violations. I want to bring to your attention on the bottom right-hand side here, between Beacon enforcement, 61 to 65 miles per hour. Again, St. Cloud Elementary School, southbound Budinger Avenue, 1,645 vehicles, 1,000 violations during the Beacon times. Between beacons, when the lights are not flashing, 2,376 with 212 violations. Lakeview Elementary School, 701 Columbia Avenue, direction is northbound. 716 vehicles were assessed during the 3-day period during the Beacon times with 282 violations. Without the lights flashing, it was 1,388 with 61 violations. Lakeview Elementary also, this is in southbound 331 Columbia Avenue, 525 vehicles over the 3-day period during the beacons flashing with 172 violations. Without the lights flashing, it was 839 during normal school hours with 41 violations. Neptune Avenue, Neptune Elementary, 1200 block of Betsy Ross Lane, 343 vehicles passed through the beacon times with 141 violations. During the non-beacon times and the school is open, 384 vehicles passed through with 204 violations. Again, a second camera that was set up at Neptune Elementary, 1200 block of Betsy Ross Lane, 96 vehicles with 5 violations. When the beacons were off and the lights were not flashing, 24 with 2 violations. In summary, 3 consecutive days of data from 7 school zones. 12 speed cameras were in use, collectively assessing data on 59,589 vehicles passing through. Now, some of these were repetitive due to the camera location. It would pick it up a second time potentially. With 3,701 violations on a flashing beacon, 1,125 violations the hours between flashing beacons. I pose to you that this relevant data shows and supports that the speeds in the school zone constitute a heightened safety threat for our students. Staff recommends approval of Ordinance 2024-48, and it is requested that City Council approve Ordinance 2024-48. I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. If you'll stand by for
Yes,
that.
sir.
Would anyone in the audience like to speak to this item? If not, we'll have discussion or motion by council. Councilmember Gilbert.
Well, Chief, you know, since the day I sat in this seat, this was my major concern. This is what I wanted, this is what I thought the city needed, and this is, if one accident, one injury, one death is way too many. Price aside, this will create revenue for crossing guards, this will create, but will do safety. And incredible job you, Veronica, thank you. We pushed this, we fought, we did whatever we had to do, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Fletcher.
Thank you, Chief, and to all the officers who work every day to make sure that our kids get to school safe. The data that you showed is absolutely unbelievable, and I think each and every one of us needs to slow down during school zones. The data that you've presented and then this solution is almost guaranteed to save a life of one of our kids going to school. I know the council takes school safety very important. We just worked, the city manager's office did, to get flashing lights out in front of Lakeview, while also saving money and time by our officers out there enforcing something that we should already be doing collectively as a community. So I just want to commend you and your team, the city manager's office, for pulling this together. So
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Manzares?
Just for purposes of our record today, one of the statute requires that the city council make a specific finding, as the chief put out in this presentation, as to the heightened risk zones that we're talking about. So when you adopt this as part of the ordinance, it identifies the seven school zones that the chief mentioned in his presentation, and as part of heightened risk zones that enable you to adopt this code. So I just want to put that on the record.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Urban?
Yeah, some of those numbers were staggering to see, and that study was very eye-opening. I think all of us up here can say that the safety of the students and the crossing guards here in St. Cloud is a top priority, so very excited to move this forward, and thank you, Chief, for the presentation.
Thank you, sir.
Ditto.
Hey, could you enlighten us a little further when these violations take place during your school hour times? How does the fines work? I mean,
So what's going to happen is there will be signage that is flashing. Now, what we're seeing here, I'm honestly hoping and praying that people will see these, and it will say speed detection cameras in use, and I'd be content with not getting any money, to be honest with you, because even one speeding vehicle is dangerous in any school zone. We do spend a lot of time, I will tell you that, Mayor, and I'm sure you're aware of that, Council. We have our traffic units that stay in that school zone all the time to ensure that people are not speeding. But I will tell you, the minute we do leave, unfortunately, is that we were never there. So this is definitely a game changer for us. So what occurs is once it recognizes 11 miles an hour over the speed limit, these units actually do their own setup, and they do their own testing to ensure the accuracy of the device. It takes pictures, video, and then someone will actually be reviewing the video footage to ensure that the license plate is the correct license plate. It's mostly self-generated, and once we say, yes, that is a violation, it basically will send a notice to the driver or the registered owner of the vehicle saying that this vehicle was seen with video, with photos, in this school speed zone, speeding at this level.
what are the consequences for someone who is guilty of multiple offenses?
They're going to continue to get these.
Continue to get fines?
Yes, the fines will continue. I don't necessarily believe
There's no enhanced fine from.
There's no enhanced fines then?
No, sir. No, but it stops at, it's $100 per violation.
What happens when they don't pay their fines?
So if I understand correctly, I don't believe you can actually re-register your vehicles. I think there's fines or liens on your registration. So they'd have to settle that prior to having that occur.
Good. You know, I've heard a lot of complaints about, radars and cameras, and usually the only people that complain are the ones who are actually breaking the law and getting fines. I think one of the great responsibilities that I've certainly heard from all of our council members, and that I certainly feel, is that we are responsible to do everything within our power to ensure the safety of our citizens, and especially our young kids and students. And so I definitely think this is something we just absolutely need to approve, and hopefully it will slow people down, and I believe it will save lives eventually.
Yes, sir.
Do we have any other discussion from council? Any questions? Then could I entertain a motion for the adoption of ordinance number 2024-48?
Motion approved.
And what, do we need to make anything else a part of that motion?
No, just, as I said earlier, you are incorporating the finding. It says one of the whereas clauses as part of the ordinance based on the data that the chief presented to you.
So based on all of the data that the chief has presented, you're making a motion?
I'll make a second.
And then Councilmember Fletcher has made a motion, Councilmember Urban has made a second.
It was Councilmember
Gilbert.
Gilbert, was that Gilbert? Thought I heard him.
I'll speak louder, sorry.
All right. Councilmember Gilbert has made a second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Gilbert?
Aye.
Councilmember Fletcher?
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Matheny?
Aye.
Councilmember Urban?
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell?
Aye.
The motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Madam Clerk, could you please read item number 6 into the record?
First reading and introduction of ordinance number 2024-50, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, adopting the future land use element of the comprehensive plan, providing for the filing of the Planning Commission recommendation and proof of publication, applicability and effect, suburbility, conflict, copies on files, and effective date.
Good evening, council members. Dagmar Segura, Community Development Deputy Director. And finally, we're here. This is our transmittal hearing for our future land use element that we are pleased to present to you this evening. We have our consultants, VHB, this afternoon that will be doing the presentation on our behalf. And I'm going to leave them to do the introductions. Staff will be available to answer any questions at the end of or during the presentations, but we are very excited with what we are proposing for the future of the city. Thanks.
Thank you, Dagmar. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council members. My name is Neil Strelo. I'm a certified planner and associate with VHB. We are my address is 501 East Kennedy Boulevard, Suite 1010, Tampa, Florida. VHB is a 2,000-person, privately held professional planning and engineering firm with 33 offices along the East Coast. Over the last 5 months, it's been our pleasure to work with staff, your professional planning staff, to update your future land use element and map. This evening, we have a short presentation for you. Our agenda is in front of you. We're going to be talking a bit about the existing conditions and future needs, the proposed future land use changes, and then next steps leading to your action. We have met with you individually in briefings, and so this is along those same lines of the presentation that you have seen. As a starting point in our conversations with staff, we looked at data and analysis and inventory. That is really looking at the socioeconomic and population projections that the city is experiencing. And you know, you're well aware that your geographic area continues to grow more than 16,000 acres since 2017. Your population has grown from 2000, and using your University of Florida, our University of Florida's Bureau of Economic and Business Research population projections, it is anticipated to grow more. And the estimate is up to 100,000, nearly 100,000 by 2045. Most of your jurisdiction has an existing land use of low-density residential, and that additional population and changes in demographics, much like one of your previous action items tonight, requires different types of housing. And we see in those projections more than 14,000 additional housing units being needed in order to meet that population demand by 2045. Recognizing actions that this board has taken, and your strategic plan has specific goals. You are emphasizing economic development. You want to increase the employment opportunities and workforce development and destinations. We looked at your current plan, your current future land use plan, and it is delivering only about 5.7 jobs per household, which is on the low end of what a balanced plan would be, and there is a stated goal of reaching a 1-to-1 ratio of jobs to housing as a goal. So the conclusion of this in the summary is that your current future land use map doesn't meet your projected housing and employment needs, and interventions are needed, as we're going to talk about a bit. The image in front of you is the proposed future land use map, which is inclusive only of the lands within the city limit and not recognizing the JPA.
We understand that you have interlocal agreement and certainly with the county, and that continued annexation of lands will come in. Some of our strategies are detailed to specific locations, and I'm going to ask my colleague, certified planner Jared Jones, to step you through some of those in a detailed map and additional conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jared Jones, 510 East Kennedy, Tampa, Florida, Suite 1010. So to talk about these future land use map changes in a few broad categories, primarily the biggest change is the 3 large employment centers that we've proposed. The first being the western triangular land to the west of the Florida Turnpike, the Norte corridor, I'm sorry, the employment around the Norte corridor, and also a smaller employment district to the northeast. We've also proposed a commercial corridor down Florida Avenue and the Lakeshore Boulevard to activate those streets with small boutique businesses is the envisioned outcome. And then we've also proposed a high-density residential along both sides of 13th Street on the outskirts of downtown. We've also updated the future land use map to reflect existing institutional uses and also existing conservation and open space lands, as I'll discuss further. So this is a breakdown of the current future land use and proposed future land use map acreages. As you can see, we've proposed a reduction in low-density residential and medium-density residential, a moderate increase in high-density and commercial future land uses, and then the largest increase in the employment future land use. We've also had moderate increases in public institutional, park and open space, and conservation districts, as I mentioned. So this is restating a lot of that. There's a general reduction in the residential future land uses throughout the city that's offset with an increase in allowable densities and mixed-use policies, which I will speak to on later slides. The commercial and employment districts were expanded to achieve that jobs housing balance of 1-to-1 and also to activate specific areas along identified corridors. As I mentioned, the public and institutional and conservations reflect the existing use. And these changes, along with the proposed mixed-use policies that I will discuss, ultimately serves to meet both the jobs and housing goals of the city while maintaining that 1-to-1 balance or exceeding that 1-to-1 balance. The commercial land uses are, the need is for an additional 508 acres projected by 2045. The proposed future land use map meets 40% of that with the additional commercial future land uses. The remainder of that, the remaining 60% of that need is proposed to be met through an increased intensity allowed in commercial uses and a combination of mixed-use policies. The industrial land and professional or office land uses are also expected to increase by approximately 600 acres. As mentioned earlier, we're proposing an additional 1,000 acres to not only to ensure a 1-to-1 jobs housing balance, but also to accommodate to maintain that balance as JPA lands are annexed into the city. Institutional land use needs are expected to be fulfilled by the existing undeveloped capacity. And of course, future annexations of developed areas will be required to perform the proper assessment to ensure those levels of service are met along with the other levels of service requirements adopted in the Land Development Code. Additionally, as we've heard, we've proposed a policy to allow fire stations and similar public uses to not require a future land use map amendment to the institutional designation, enabled to promote flexibility with providing those services. So getting to the proposed densities and intensities. We have not proposed any additional density increases for the low density residential district for the city. We have proposed a 18 dwelling unit per acre maximum for medium density residential, and that's to increase the ability for that future land use district to accommodate a wider type of missing middle housing typologies. We've also proposed an increase to the high density residential district to allow for more dense apartment building and multifamily uses, as well as similar increases to the commercial district, both within the CBD and from outside of the CBD. Importantly, the maximum residential density within the central business district would only be allowed to met when that is also providing sufficient commercial uses as well. We have also proposed allowing for residential development up to 18 dwelling units per acre as a conditional use in the institutional future land use district, and that's to promote more workforce housing alongside civic uses, things like libraries and churches, to allow for a more flexible provision of housing. And then also adopting the low-density residential JPA and the medium-density and intensity JPA future land uses to reflect the county's densities and intensities for those. As I mentioned, the non-residential floor area ratios, or FARs, are proposed to increase to allow for more commercial uses within the city. And also the mix of uses within the high-density residential and commercial future land uses are to be provided when those minimum requirements of the primary uses are met. I already mentioned the conditional residential within the institutional future land use. The Unified Development District is a new future land use district meant to mirror the county's JPA mixed-use district. And it's to provide for a standard process to plan for new communities in a standard way that's adopted within the Land Development Code, that has standardized walkable block sizes, a mix of uses, so not seeing as much residential-only development, and then minimum densities as well. So we've proposed a variety of mixed-use provisions to achieve the goal of providing a more flexible planning framework. So for low and medium density residential districts, allowing for accessory commercial units, or ACUs, which would be small, up to 800-foot commercial uses. And that's to allow for homeowners and small-scale property owners to open a small business, to not have to pay the high rents in the limited amount of commercial land, and to lower barriers to business entry and local entrepreneurship. The commercial future land use previously, or currently I should say, only allows for residential development within the central business district. So we're proposing to also allow that outside in all commercial flues when a minimum amount of commercial is provided to ensure that district maintains its primary role of commercial uses, and similarly for high density residential to allow for some commercial uses. So apartment complexes or subdivisions can include small cafes and small convenience shops and corner stores without a future land use amendment. And then the institutional future land use, as previously mentioned, enabling campus housing, workforce housing, and mixed-use communities based around civic institutions. We've maintained flexibility in the annexations. We've adopted a matrix to guide future annexations with a minimum future land use, matching the JPA future land uses to land uses within the city. And we've also have adopted or proposed policies allowing, encouraging and promoting additional planning engagement and discussions with Osceola County on changes to their future land use map for lands currently within the JPA. And for next steps, I'm going to pass it to Dagmary. Thank you.
Thank you, Jared. So what now? So right now, we did, in July, we present this to the Planning Commission in a workshop. They received these amendments in a very positive manner. They provided us some feedback, which we incorporated in the plan that it is in front of you. As you previously mentioned, we did some briefings with council. We incorporated the changes that were presented to us into this plan as well. And today we're here for the transmittal. This is the hearing for the transmittal to the DEO, the Department of Commerce. On Tuesday, August 13th, we're going to be held our informational public meeting, which we're going to be presenting to the citizens of St. Cloud this plan. Information can be found in our website and in social media. And if anyone has any questions in regards to the public meeting, they can contact our Community Development Office. Then after that, we're going to be presenting this plan to the EDAC. We incorporated a lot of their feedback into this plan as well. So we are expecting a very positive feedback from EDAC as well. And in September, our Planning Commission public hearing and adoption in October with City Council after we receive feedback from the state in this transmittal. And we are recommending approval of the transmittal of this ordinance 2450 to the DEO. We'll be happy to answer any questions. I know that there's a lot of information, but we are very excited about what we are proposing. Thank you.
Mr. Benzares, this is the first reading. I assume that we get public comment
Yes.
on this. Would anyone in the audience like to speak to item number 6? If not, we'll have discussion and a motion by council. Councilmember Matheny.
Thank you. I was hoping one of y'all would hit your light. So I'm not one of those people that believes we have to meet the population demand in our city just because we have vacant land. I don't feel like they're predicting all these people are coming. I don't feel like it's the city of St. Cloud's responsibility to house all these folks, you know? I mean, to the detriment of our infrastructure, utilities, roadways, schools, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm not a fan of the plan. You know, one of the things with planning, and maybe it's just me, and I'm not a planner, right? So it's like, I feel like the terms are very misleading to me. You know, so if you say, oh, we're raising the commercial and we're raising the industrial, I'm like, heck yeah, let's do it. But then when you see the details, there's like housing and all of it, you know? And so to me, that's not, I don't know. I just feel like, I don't know. I don't like the plan. And then I guess I wanted a little more clarification about what employment land use actually means. Because in my time up here, I've found that I'll ask for something and then with planning, and it's probably a fault of mine, like I don't understand the definition of it. Like to me, I'm like, commercial, great, you know? And then I find out, oh, that's apartments. That's considered commercial, you know, or there'll be some kind of like thing with like the way that the language works with planning, and it's like things slide in that you just, for me, like not expecting, like there's unintended consequences that always kind of happen. So I don't know. I don't feel like it's our responsibility to provide all the housing. I think we need to do what's best for us. And then if there's not enough housing, well, maybe they need to go to, you know, some other place that has housing available. So that's it.
Any other discussion? To me, I find it, this is a lot. I know this is a first reading, but I'm just wondering, do we have enough time that you've allotted we'll be able to fully get our head around what's being asked of us here? because I think it's certainly going to demand some more work, that's for sure.
So, yeah, this is the transmittal to the DEO. So the DEO, after they receive the package, they have 61 days to give us comments and feedback. Within that time frame, we have the capability of making any additional changes prior to the adoption. So with that being said, is that if there's any changes that you would like to see on the plan and on the policies that we have created, we have until right before the meeting in October for the adoption hearing. So yeah, there is some more time to keep considering what is being presented and opportunity to create additional opportunities as the council pleases.
All right. Do we have any other discussion by council? Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to move this forward.
We have a motion from Councilmember Urban to move it for the first reading forward. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second. Councilmember Gilbert. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Fletcher?
I'm sorry. So,
I'm sorry, I reached out to the city attorney.
you went the wrong way.
I know. I feel like we need more direction. There was conversation about more work, but we weren't given any direction to make specific changes. Ms. Matheny made comments, but I didn't see any heads nodding. So if you tell us to transmit, and we don't get any changes, you're going to get the same thing back.
But it, can I speak?
Yes.
No, we do have the opportunity to make changes after we transmit. Yes, we can make changes.
I understand that, but if
Oh.
the city council hasn't told us any changes that they want to
I
make, then
understand.
we're not going to make any changes.
I apologize. I understand what you mean now, correct?
Yes.
But we still have the opportunity to make changes if we want to make them.
Right, but I think once you transmit it to the state, the next time you'll see it is after it comes back in its final format. So I think when Mrs. Miller.
That's not what she's saying, though.
Right.
So we have the opportunity to make minor changes, but if you're going to make significant changes, then we may have some issues at the final adoption. Because typically, the state's expecting minor changes. If we make substantial changes, then they may ask us to re-adopt, right?
That is correct. So, and what we're proposing is to hold one-on-ones with each council member again, so that you can give us your feedback individually.
No,
No.
we need direction.
Oh, yes, of course, in addition to the direction.
Well, it's a no for me. I don't want to transmit it. I mean, personally, I think there's a lot of questions. Like, I don't want to transmit it but if I'm the only one, I mean, I'll get outvoted, right? But I wouldn't want to send it without being in the final form.
Councilmember Urban.
I think Fletcher had his light up.
Go ahead, that's fine.
But you
I'm
brought a
sorry.
motion. I want you to address your concern first.
I mean, so I respectfully have a little bit different philosophy. I feel like if the population is coming, I want to be in the driver's seat of it, and I want St. Cloud to be in control of that. And the big thing that stood out to me in the presentation was the jobs to housing ratio. We have to get that up. We need more jobs here in St. Cloud, and hopefully this will help facilitate that in the future and as we grow. So that's sort of my thought on it.
Thank you. Councilmember Fletcher.
That answers my question, so you can move on. So you can go ahead. Never mind.
All right. Councilmember Matheny.
But if we didn't take in so many homes, doesn't our jobs ratio, and we focused on creating jobs, doesn't that make our ratio even better? Like, if we're not saying we're going to build another 14,000 homes, and then we got to do all these jobs to make the ratio, but if you don't build those 14,000 homes, and then you focus on building the jobs, then your ratio is better, right? Or is my math wrong? So, just my 2 cents.
Do we have any other discussion?
So you do have a motion and a
We have
second
a
to
motion from
transmit.
Councilmember Urban. Do we have a second?
Second.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Fletcher?
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Matheny?
Aye. Oh, no, sorry, no.
Councilmember Urban?
Aye.
Councilmember Gilbert?
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-1.
Madam Clerk, please read item number 7 into the record.
Public hearing for resolution number 2024-116R, a resolution of the City Council of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, amending resolution number 2023-154R, which adopted the fiscal year 2023-2024 budget for the City of St. Cloud, finding the city manager has certified there are prior year fund balances and/or current revenues available in the budget for additional projects and programs in various funds not included in the original budget, requiring the budget to be increased to include said additional fundings in the various funds and making supplemental appropriations within the funds.
Jeff Cooper, Finance Director. This is Budget Amendment Number 4 of fiscal year 2023-2024. The city manager has certified funds are available to appropriate for these projects. A summary of the budget amendment items, shaded structures at Lakefront Park, $170,000. This is funded with your city council contingency. Architectural design and engineering costs for project PS 2401 Public Safety Complex Phase 1 of an additional $3 million. This is police impact fees, prior year fund balance, and an additional pumper fire engine funding, $250,000. That does come from fire impact fees, residential. We've collected more than we originally estimated for this fiscal year due to the level of growth. Replace the transfer station floor, $310,000. That is funded by the sanitation fund, prior year fund balance. And additional funding for motor pool vehicle maintenance, $800,000. And this comes from motor pool labor charges, parts, and outside repairs. Staff recommendation is approval of resolution 2024-116R, and we're requesting your approval of the same resolution.
Thank you. If you'll stand by for any questions. Would anyone in the audience like to speak to this item? If not, we'll have discussion and/or motion by council.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Fletcher, second from Councilmember Matheny for approval. Madam Clerk?
Deputy Mayor Matheny?
Aye.
Councilmember Urban?
Aye.
Councilmember Gilbert?
Aye.
Councilmember Fletcher?
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Coop.
Brings us to council action items. The first 6 items, items 1 through 6 on the agenda, are ordinances for first reading and introduction for the sole purpose of the council to authorize the publication of the ordinance for a final hearing. We will not take final action on the items tonight. We will not receive full presentations, and public input on the ordinances will occur at the final hearing, at which the council will consider final action, and this pertains only to the first 6 items. Madam Clerk, will you please read item number 1?
First reading and introduction for ordinance number 2024-49, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, providing for the zoning amendment of the zoning map of the Land Development Code of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, specifically changing the zoning designation of approximately 10.31 acres identified as Clark property from A agricultural zoning designation to R-1B, single-family dwelling zoning designation with a low-density residential future land use designation generally south of Furtick Road, east of Michigan Avenue, providing for entering the designation on the official zoning map, filing of the Planning Commission recommendation and proof of publication, suburbility, and effective date.
Could I entertain a motion for the adoption of the first reading of ordinance number 2024-49?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion from Councilmember Fletcher. Could I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilmember Urban. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Urban?
Aye.
Councilmember Gilbert?
He
Councilmember
stepped out.
Fletcher?
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Matheny?
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0.
Madam Clerk, could you please read item number 2?
First reading and introduction for ordinance number 2024-51, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, amending Chapter 3, Performance and citing standards by amending Article 14 titled Use Regulations, Sections 3.14.23 of the Land Development Code to update citing standards for mini warehouse and storage facilities, providing for suburbility, scrivener's error, conflict, codification, and an effective date.
Could I entertain a motion for the adoption of this ordinance?
Motion to approve.
Motion from Councilmember Fletcher. Do I have a second?
Second.
A second from Councilmember Urban. Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Gilbert?
Aye.
Councilmember Fletcher?
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Matheny? Aye. Councilmember Urban?
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Item number 3, please.
First reading and introduction for ordinance number 2024-52, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, to annex into the City of St. Cloud approximately plus minus .88 acres identified as La Salle property located at 3150 La Salle Avenue in accordance with the voluntary annexation provision of Chapter 171.044 Florida statutes.
Could I entertain a motion for the adoption of this ordinance?
Motion to approve.
I have a motion, Councilmember Fletcher. Do I have a second? I'll make a second. Mayor made a second. Could you please call the roll?
Councilmember Fletcher?
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Matheny? Aye. Councilmember Urban?
Aye.
Councilmember Gilbert?
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Please read item number 4.
First reading and introduction for ordinance number 2024-53, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, assigning a future land use designation park and open space approximately plus minus .88 acres identified as La Salle Avenue property located at 3150 La Salle Avenue, providing for amending the official future land use map of the comprehensive plan, filing of the Planning Commission recommendation and proof of publication, applicability and effects, suburbility, copies on files, and effective date.
Could I entertain a motion for the adoption of ordinance 2024-53?
Motion to approve.
Motion from Councilmember Fletcher. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilmember Gilbert. Madam Clerk?
Deputy Mayor Matheny? Aye. Councilmember Urban?
Aye.
Councilmember Gilbert?
Aye.
Councilmember Fletcher?
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Item number 5.
First reading and introduction of ordinance number 2024-54, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, providing for the zoning amendment of the zoning map of the Land Development Code of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, specifically changing the zoning designation of approximately plus minus .88 acres identified as La Salle Avenue property from IN Institutional County zoning designation to OR Open Space and Recreation City zoning designation with a park and open space future land use designation located at 3150 La Salle Avenue, providing for entering the designation on the official zoning map, filing of the Planning Commission recommendation and proof of publication, suburbility, and effective date.
Could I entertain a motion for the adoption of this ordinance?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion from Councilmember Fletcher. Do I have a second? The mayor makes the second. Could we please have a roll call?
Councilmember Urban?
Aye.
Councilmember Gilbert?
Aye.
Councilmember Fletcher?
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Matheny? Aye. Mayor Blackwell?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
And could you please read item number 6?
First reading and introduction for ordinance number 2024-55, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, amending Chapter 2, Development Process Procedures and Permits, Article 8, Landscaping, Tree Removal, and Irrigation Plans and Permits, providing for landscaping permit types and procedures, amending Chapter 3, Performance and Siting Standards, and amending Chapter 4, Site Design and Development Standards, Article 8, Landscaping and Tree Protection, and Article 9, Open Space and Amenities Requirements, providing for the minimum tree protection, landscape, and open space standards, and also includes effect, suburbility, scrivener's error, conflict, codification, and effective date.
Could I entertain a motion for the adoption of this ordinance?
Motion to approve.
Councilmember Fletcher has made a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilmember Urban. Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Gilbert?
Aye.
Councilmember Fletcher?
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Matheny?
Aye.
Councilmember Urban?
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Brings us to item number 7. Could you please read that into the record?
Resolution number 2024-135R, a resolution of the City Council of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, authorizing the purchase of one Pierce PUC pumper truck with options available through NPP Gov, contract number PS 20240, which subject matter is fire apparatus, and the award thereof of Pierce Manufacturing, Inc., and authorizing distributor 10-8 Fire Equipment, Inc., and providing an effective date.
Chief?
Good evening, Jason Miller, Fire Chief. This is for the purchase of one Pierce Enforcer fire truck. Currently budgeted at $1.25 million, actual cost $1.22028. Funding's provided from impact fees. Thanks for the budget amendment. Staff recommends approval of 2024-135R.
Would anyone in the audience like to comment on this item? If not, we'll have discussion and a motion by council. Councilmember Gilbert.
Yes, Chief, thank you. As we grow and we're adding stations, we're adding people, where would this specific piece of equipment be stationed? And is it for a future station or is it for existing?
Correct. It's for future Fire Station 36. The exact location for 36 has not been determined. It's kind of leaning towards one of two areas of town, but it's going to be based upon the call volume in those areas as we get a little closer to it. Both areas, we have property already set aside by a developer's agreement, so we can pull the trigger at any time. It's just a matter of seeing how the call volume and the development continues in the next year and a half or so in those areas to determine the best location.
And through my investigation, these items and equipment items are sometimes 3 or 4 years out. So the demand is a lot higher than supply, and from what I understand, there's not very many manufacturers of this kind of equipment. Am I correct?
Correct. Currently, supply for our model, we're looking at about 36 months.
Thank you, sir.
Do we have any other discussion? Mr. Gilbert, would you like to make a motion?
I do. Motion to approve, Mayor.
Do I have a second? Mayor
Second.
makes a second. Too slow, man. Mr. Gilbert made a motion, the mayor made the second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Fletcher.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Matheny. Aye. Councilmember Urban.
Aye.
Councilmember Gilbert.
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk, could you please read item number 8?
Resolution number 2024-137R, a resolution of the City Council of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, as required by Florida Statute Section 316.1896, subsection 14, subsection B, and City Ordinance 2024-48, designating the city clerk's office to serve as the clerk to local hearing officer for appeals of notices of violations issued pursuant to the school zone speed enforcement program and providing an effective date.
Mr. Manzares?
Yes, the last two items on your council action agenda are related to the ordinance that you adopted earlier, creating the school zone speed detection system. So the statute requires that the city council by resolution appoint basically the clerk or support staff that would serve the local hearing officer. As you're aware, the ordinance provides that in the event someone wants to challenge one of these, they would go to a local hearing officer who would actually be the special magistrate that handles code enforcement matters for the city. So this resolution, as required by the statute, designates the city clerk to serve as basically the support staff to the local hearing officer, which is a special magistrate.
Thank you. Would anyone in the audience like to speak to this item? If not, we'll have discussion and/or motion by council.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion from Councilmember Fletcher. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilmember Urban. Madam Clerk?
Deputy Mayor Matheny. Aye. Councilmember Urban.
Aye.
Councilmember Gilbert.
Aye.
Councilmember Fletcher.
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
And I'm assuming the same discussion as regard to the next. Any additional comment that you have, Mr. Manzares?
No, I'll turn it over to the capable hands of Mrs. Miller.
We were taking turns.
Okay. Ms. Miller?
I was only going to add that this is necessary for us to implement the school zone enforcement program.
Thank you very much. Would anyone in the audience like to speak to this item? If not, we'll have discussion and/or motion by council.
Motion to approve.
Motion from Councilmember Fletcher for approval. Do I have a second?
Second.
A second from Councilmember Urban. Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Urban?
Aye.
Councilmember Gilbert?
Aye.
Councilmember Fletcher?
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Matheny? Mayor Blackwell?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Mr. Manzares?
I do not have anything, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our city manager.
Yes, I believe everyone had a packet at your desk this evening. It was called, cover sheet had proposed Downtown Vibes project. So, as you know, I think next week, we're going to start working on 10th Street and the corrections to the downtown roads. And as a result of the contract changes and the conversion to asphalt, we are having an increase in the project balance of total amount left over is $597,382. So we wanted to, since that money was originally intended for the downtown, we as staff met and have worked on a proposal for you on how to use that funding. And I was hoping to discuss that with the city council and hopefully get direction. The first item is the parking lot behind the hotel, currently a big grass lot. What we would be proposing to do would be paving the drive aisles and adding as many parking spaces as we can, as well as lighting for that. New York Avenue from 10th Street towards City Hall, ending at the alley behind the VFW, we would be proposing to put in some underground electrical, which would help us with all of the special events that we're having. There's electrical now on everything but south of 10th Street, but not north of 10th Street, so we'd like to add that. And then street furniture. There was no street furniture included in the Phase 2 project. So we have two different options for the street furniture. Florida Avenue was recently completed. That street furniture is a different color and than what is currently on New York Avenue. So what we are proposing is the option to replace the street furniture on New York Avenue to match Florida Avenue, as well as adding street furniture on Pennsylvania, so it'll all be consistent. So if the city council does not want to replace the street furniture on New York Avenue, that's fine. We can just have the street furniture on Pennsylvania match, and it's half the price. We just thought that the uniformity would be good for the project. We have micromobility, there's current options. There's been a lot of talk about different options that money was more reserved so that we could come up with a proposal for the micromobility. Electronic.
What does that even mean?
So that could be working on, like the trolley, that could be working with someone on bicycles, that could be working with someone with scooters, that could be working with someone with, what was it we recently, Jay? The pedicabs, thank you. That could be a transit company coming in and driving people around. And then electronic message board. We would like to have a message board at New York Avenue that says when there's events, monthly market tonight, monthly market this Wednesday.
An exciting council meeting Thursday night.
Once a month.
There you go. We can do that too. Placement of that, we would hope that Kisselback would work with us, that maybe we could, they like to put banners, and we were hoping that maybe they would work with us to put the electronic message board there. Originally, we had tried to work with the library to use, we actually had come to them with the idea to say, hey, replace your signage with an electronic message board, because we keep putting our message board on your property. It would look great if, and unfortunately, it just hasn't worked out for us to be able to use it because they have so much great stuff that they're already advertising. So, and then if we go with the cheaper of the street furniture option, we included dumpster enclosures. So each dumpster enclosure is approximately $20,000. So this, I think that was what the number was. So this would give us about 6 potential dumpster enclosures. We have no plan. We'd have to work with the businesses. Right now, where the dumpsters are, that's just where they are. We would need to work with people potentially to have permission to do this on their property, and we'd want to make sure we're siting them in a good location. But this would not be enough to replace all of the dumpster enclosure, or to add dumpster enclosures throughout the downtown, but it would be a good start. So you have 2 options in front of you. The biggest difference is whether we match the street furniture to Florida Avenue, or we do dumpster enclosures. And so we're looking for feedback and direction.
Councilman Gilbert.
Thank you, Mayor. City Manager, one of the companies I own, they pay us to make things look nice, and we appreciate that in the trade shows and convention industry. However, when it comes to taxpayer money, I don't really want to invest in making something match on Pennsylvania versus New York if it's going to cost twice as much. You're looking at 2 separate streets, and you're looking at 2 separate areas where Florida Avenue is becoming a business area, but now is a residential, or mostly residential, where New York is business. So my only comment to that, yeah, I'd like things to look nice, but I would love to save the taxpayer money to take a functional system that's there in place and replace it with another system. If it was damaged or broke or something like that, certainly, but I think if it's existing and it's in good condition and need no repair, my opinion would be just saving that money for other ideas. And I yield back to you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Matheny.
Thank you. I feel like this is too premature to have this conversation, because what if something goes wrong on the project that we, are cursed with, it seems like, on 10th Street. So I mean, kind of counting your chickens before they hatch kind of a thing. That's my first thing. Second, I think if we were going to move forward, I would want to focus on like the parking lot and the underground electric. Those would be the ones I would want to focus on. But again, I feel like this is too premature of a conversation. Street furniture, to me, I agree with Councilmember Gilbert. I don't know why we would want Pennsylvania to match Florida. Like, Florida's its own thing. It's its own thing. It's got its own vibe, let's say. And I'm sure the planners were involved when we picked the furniture on Florida, and the planners were involved when we picked the furniture on New York. And in my mind, I would think New York and Penn would match, not to Florida. But yeah, I wouldn't do that. The micromobility, the problem for me is that would be recurring funds. So do we have a plan if we moved forward with something like that, how to fund it every year? And then my last thing is the dumpster enclosures. Shouldn't that be a CRA cost, not this money cost? That's it. Only a comment on almost everything on there.
Now I'm thoroughly confused. Councilmember Urban.
I would tend to agree with Deputy Mayor Matheny about let's finish up these repairs for Phase 2 first, and then maybe tackle this. But yeah, I want to prioritize the parking lot, absolutely, and then maybe everything after that. So yeah, that's my comment.
Can I add one comment? So we have been talking with the contractor who is doing 10th Street, that they would come in and make those pavement improvements to that parking lot when they were completed. So like a change order, basically, for the final phase. So so it would be nice to know, like, yes, that's what you want, because we could continue moving in that direction as long as funding is available.
Councilmember Fletcher.
I had a question, City Manager. So this is for the parking lot behind the hotel. Refresh my memory, parking lot over by the fire station, that was already in the budget amendment, right? So that one's getting paved too?
Correct. And that one is because for us to park the city vehicles with the parking garage going on, we've identified that we already had complaints about parking. So we're trying to be proactive and identify where we're going to move city vehicles. We've been parking them over there right now, which we have a problem with maintaining the lawn because we tell people, move your cars, we're going to go mow, and, someone doesn't get the message, they're on vacation and so forth.
Okay, because I was going through, I was like, oh, okay, let's prioritize the parking. If there's anything else that we can pave, can we like slash some of these and pave for, more parking spots? So for me, it would be parking lot, underground utilities, the electronic message board, that's real big, for me. I have heard some complaints about the dumpsters, that's been circulating around. People get in and out of the dumpsters and trying to come up with a solution for that. I'm not so, it doesn't matter on the matching. If we can save money, that'd be great, but definitely prioritize parking here. So hopefully that helps.
Councilmember Matheny.
With regard to the question about the change order, I have an idea I was going to talk to the city manager with offline, but, I'm not opposed to her finding a way, to contract it, but I have a different idea I was going to talk to you about.
Councilmember Fletcher.
Sorry, in my comments, when it got to me, I was going to bring up, and I know Deputy Mayor Matheny has mentioned this over her tenure, can we fix the lights in downtown?
Oh my gosh, please.
Like, can we come up with like maybe a whole new idea? Because they always go out.
Or something.
So we had
The
a,
squirrels eat them apparently, but I don't know how everyone else can have lights.
we had a lengthy
So if there's just a
conversation.
little bit in here that we can.
So we had a lengthy conversation about the squirrels. It's regular maintenance for us. At one point, we had actually reached out to, I'm going to call it a pest control company, and I don't know if that's the right name, Kevin. It was very expensive for us to have them come and regularly treat the lights to stop the squirrels from eating the coating.
How does everyone else have lights?
I don't know if they
mean,
have
for
our
different
our
lights?
aggressive squirrels.
Councilmember Matheny.
Along that same line, we never got the lights up on, they're supposed to be on Penn too,
They were not in the project.
but they're supposed to be on Penn, like, so if we were gonna do something, but
We could
I would think we
use
need to reach out to everyone else that has lights that don't seem to have this problem, like Celebration Winter Park, because
We
our
have.
lights, I mean, they're awesome, but they're never functioning, so.
We have reached out several times, because I know I've asked. I think that's how we ended up with the pest control quote.
You'll figure it out.
Okay, so I want to see if I think I understand what direction was. So after, obviously, this is going to be after the project is done, but we want to start being prepared to move. So parking lot behind the hotel,
Definitely.
underground electric for New York Avenue for events, the cheap option for the street furniture, and electronic message board were your pleasures.
And then the dumpster enclosure, could we look at CRA funds for that?
We could, I'll be honest, there's been a lot of complaints that we spend all of our CRA money in the downtown. So, we've also been trying to find other ways to use the CRA money, and but that's, we can have the CRA. I think that was, eventually going to be something that we would bring to you anyway, so we can do that. So
That I can wait.
then we can, when we have whatever's remaining, we'll work on new ideas and we'll come back. But I'd like to be able to plan on moving forward on parking lot, underground electric, street furniture, and the electronic message board.
Are we in agreement with that? You have,
Thank you so much,
You have
and I
the
look forward to
approval you
your
need?
idea.
are you through?
I am, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Matheny.
I don't have anything. There's 2 meetings left, I'm gonna have to come up with something.
All right. Councilmember Irvin.
I don't have anything, thank you.
Councilmember Gilbert.
Yeah, just 2 things, and I'll keep it short. One, I got an opportunity to work with, as an observation with the police force, taking some bad actors off the street, and I was amazed at the professionalism and what they did. So congratulations to you and your officers. And for the fire chief, thank you for explaining the EEO operation. I was not aware of that. Now I have much better tune of how the city acts and reacts prior to, during, and after any emergency. So thanks to both you and both your departments.
Councilman Fletcher.
The only thing that I had was what I brought up earlier during the Eden project, is if it was possible to give direction on the parking. Is that something that we can do, Dan?
And if I just may, so as you start seeing these plan unit developments come back, as you see, they can be pretty lengthy and include include issues that are related to the development that staff thinks. The more direction you can give staff about what you'd like to see, the better. So that's a great suggestion. And as you think of more that come up, I think staff would welcome that, because they do spend time talking to these applicants about it, and it helps to be able to say, this is what our council wants to see.
That's what we're doing with residential architectural standards, which
I
is
think-
why you keep seeing them
Yeah.
coming in. So then, now we could say, this is what they want for parking and resident, it's only two things we've gotten direction on, but we can continue on
I
that.
noticed that a lot, especially in the Eden Living PD that they just presented. Do I need to read it into the record, or having?
No, that's
having
fine. I mean, I
there-
think the rest of the council kind of agrees with that, maybe.
I don't know, I see a smile from Mr. Gilbert, but I don't know if that was a nod.
Can I add something? I like the idea of the language, I do. But I also would like us to look at changing the number of parking required for multifamily. Like, I don't know why it's so low. I mean, there's not less people, so there's the same amount of cars. So I guess I just don't know why we have such a low parking threshold. And I would not have voted for Eden if they weren't responsible for the roads, because this would have been a parking nightmare, you know, with not that, you know, not enough parking spaces. So I don't know if other council agree, like, could we look at changing the parking standards for multifamily? I understand they were a PUD and they got what they got, where I'm not talking about Eden, I'm just talking about moving forward.
So the process with the comprehensive plan changes with future land use. After our comp plan is updated, we were going to move into the land development code updates to be consistent with the goals, policies, and objectives in the new comprehensive plan. So, yes, we can. Just kind of wanted to explain the process of
Right, but
everything
can we
that
do
we're
it
doing.
now? I mean, I don't know what that process is. Is that 2 years from now that'll finally come forward? I mean, could we change that standard without getting into a lengthy?
So I'm going to look at Ms. Dunklin to find out, I'm not sure if she has anything currently planned for transportation. Is it something, I guess it's something, do you want us to add to the work plan for next year?
I wouldn't mind looking at it.
Sooner the better.
Parking is is an issue.
So I will tell you that the transportation traffic engineers are going to tell us to follow the ITE manual, and the ITE manual has a category for multifamily, and it's always lower.
But why do we have to follow that? This is parking, this isn't trip generation, this is parking. And it's our city, why can't we control it?
I don't know if that would be something that could be challenged later on, so I'm going to turn to Mr. Manzares.
Well, there's two issues to this. We can look at the issue related to the standards and how we're doing, and I think there's probably some flexibility to be able to do that. But, Ms. Matheny, you mentioned it during the discussion on it. The real issue is enforcement.
Correct.
And we have had some preliminary discussions with the police chief and others about how the city probably will need to address a more comprehensive and more effective enforcement process with regard to parking violations. Because even if you're right, that project was a private street where they get the control of their streets and it'll be easier to deal with. But even if you put the parking regulations in a subdivision or something where they're public roads, it's still going to come down to an effective enforcement perspective. And we don't currently, the system that is currently in place is not efficient enough.
I agree with that. However, if the parking spaces don't exist, the enforcement is going to be a bigger nightmare. You know, I get it. The
Oh,
enforcement,
true.
I mean, and watch other commission meetings, and I mean, parking enforcement is a angry subject. You know, I don't know that we really want to get in the business of that, but, you know, at least if we provide 4.5 parking spaces, then there's places for people to park and they're not lining the streets, and, just my 2 cents.
So is council looking for 4.5 for all multifamily?
I am.
I'm
I'd
not
like
sure
to,
if I see it
I'd
for
like
sure.
to look at it. I mean, 4.5 seems fine. I mean, I'm sure that there's some type of data that would say,
Well, that's the ITE manual. So typically what would
because,
happen
I mean,
is,
it's so low now. that-
based on the ITE manual. So typically what would happen is our land development code has the criteria, but it also has the ability for someone to come in and do a parking determination. And so they would hire a transportation engineer to follow the ITE, who would use the ITE manual as the backup for their documentation that.
But do we have to accept that? Is there some Florida statute that says we have to accept that?
I don't know, we'll have to look into that.
Yeah, I
Okay.
mean,
If that's the case, then, yeah, I would, you got, looks like 3.
Okay, thank you.
I forgot where I was.
I'm done, Mayor.
Does anybody else have anything else? Then I do not have anything that we haven't already addressed. Brings us to our information section, report section. I'd like to add, first of all, that Wednesday, August the 14th at 8:30 a.m., there will be a council workshop on the second floor, at the second floor conference room here at City Hall. Thursday, August 15th, there will be a community redevelopment agency meeting at 3 p.m. In the building department conference room. Monday, September the 2nd, city offices will be closed in observance of Labor Day holiday. Thursday, September the 12th, there will be a city council meeting at 6:30 p.m. here in council chambers. Available for your review is warrant list number 11. With that, there are no other items on our agenda. We will consider ourselves adjourned. Thank you for participating in your government.